I saw a list today that Stephen A. put out, Green said, on the Draymond Green show. It was like players under the most pressure to win a championship. I think James Harden was 1, Jason Tatum was 2, CP3 was 3, Joker was 4, and Luka wasn't even on the list. I feel like over the years, European players have not caught the same flack for not winning a championship as us players have, and I do not understand that. Stephen A., I'm going to start with you on this one. Do you agree with what Draymond had to say?
Well, I think Draymond Green is right. He's not wrong. He got his list wrong. I mean, damn, you're going to bring up my list. I mean, you get it right. Fact of the matter is, I had CP3 number 1. I had James Harden number 2. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you're gonna call out my list, at least have the number right. All right, but he's absolutely right. In the case of Luka, Luka's not on the list because Luka's relatively young. And the fact of the matter is, because of his youth, I'm sitting there knowing that, and he was just in the Western Conference Finals last year. He's knocking on the door, but he's not there yet, okay? That's why I didn't have him on the list. Jokic is on the list because Jokic is a reigning 2-time league MVP on the verge of winning back-to-back league MVPs. I mean, damn, are you going to get to the finals? So I'm definitely going to sit up there and put Jokic on the list there. But CP3 is on the list because of age, the fact that he's going to be 38, if not already 38 years of age, and time is winding down. He's running out of time. That's why I had him as number 1. I had James Harden as number 2 for obvious reasons that I had mentioned to Kendrick Perkins. And the reason why I brought Tatum on the list was because of how Tatum performed in last year's NBA Finals. Because he's a star and because we know what he's capable of, but he didn't show that in the finals against the Warriors, that's where that pressure comes from. So in regards to my list, I stand by it. But I also two things can be right all at the same time, KP. I believe that Draymond Green is right. I believe that there are European players that should be held accountable. They should be held to the same level of expectation as the brothers. And I think that a lot of times when we think about these players and we put them on the list, it's because inherently, and that's a deeper conversation, but inherently there are a lot of people out there who look at a lot of players and they feel like, you know what, you should be glad that you're here. You should be privileged that you're here. And the expectations is heaped on them because of that reality that you're facing from the audience out there, whereas European players aren't subjected to that, at least in the United States of America. I don't know how they are subjected to it in their own countries. But here, they're not necessarily subjected to that. I do believe that Draymond Green asked a very, very interesting question in that regard, and I can't summarily dismiss what he says. I take no offense to what he pointed to, by the way. I think he has a point.
You know exactly what the hell he was talking about and who he was speaking up for. And Draymond Green is not the only player or former player that feels the way that about Europeans not getting held accountable for us being under pressure winning a title. I have no problem with your list, except why is Jokic not number 1? Why is CP3 number 1? Why is James Harden number 2? Jokic is the 2-time MVP.
Because I said because they're running out of time.
Season.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that. Right. But at the same time, we're talking about your back-to-back MVP. Why is he not under pressure for us delivering or winning a championship? Hell, why is he not under pressure for us making it back to the conference finals? Why is his record so horrible over the last 2 years in the postseason? I believe he's like 1-8 or 1-9 or something to that nature. Now I get it. That people say he's been shorthanded or whatever the case may be, but he have zero excuses this year. And I'm talking about Jokic because Mike Malone has said a lot. I saw his interview last night, what he said to the media as far as addressing people about, guys just don't know, they want to paint a narrative now because Jokic is out there giving people work. Well, make sure he give people work when it matters the most. And make sure, Michael Malone, you ready to do your thing when it matters the most. Because guess what? Both of them are on the clock. Both of them are on the clock. They're the number 1 seed in Mike Malone, yes. They're the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Mike Malone has everything and more. Listen, when it comes down to the Denver Nuggets, they have 0 flaws in their roster. They have shooting. They have a superstar. They have all-star caliber players in Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. They have Bruce Brown, who was an excellent addition. They picked up Reggie Jackson and Thomas Bryant. Aaron Gordon has been balling out of control. And then you have an old school journeyman, old soul, and Jeff Green, who can still come in and provide you great minutes. So at the end of the day, I'm with Draymond for the first time ever. I guess because it's 2023 and now we seeing new light, but he's finally spoke the gospel and represented for the new media when it comes down to the certain standards that we hold certain players to and that we don't. Jokic is the two-time MVP. He should have been number one on everybody's list coming into this season for his players being under pressure.
Okay, well, it depends on how you classify the category. For me, I'm thinking about cats running out of time. That's the only reason that I had CP3 and James Harden above him, because they're running out of time where he's got an inordinate amount of time available left to him on his career. That's it. It's that simple. But as it pertains to Jokic, I'm not going to disagree with you. He's damn right he got to get it done. No doubt about it. But Mike Malone, Mike Malone is considered a damn good coach, man. Listen, of course, it's a different conversation if they end up getting swept in the first round or something like that. I get that part. But if Mike Malone ends up losing in the Western Conference Finals to Phoenix or something, I mean, I don't know if he's going to be frowned upon as a coach under that situation. I just don't.
Why? We didn't keep the same energy with Bud? When Giannis and they acquired Drew Holiday and they was winning and they had the best record in the Eastern Conference and we was putting pressure on Bud to get the job done.
But that was because they went. That was because the year before they were up 2-0 and they got smoked 4 straight by Toronto. The year before. That was where that heat came from.
So what?
No.
So what?
You asked a question, I gave you an answer. You asked a question, I gave you an answer. That's why the pressure was on Bud, because of what had happened the previous year.
Durant was asked about criticism from Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley. He said at this point, they're saying, go play with Scoot Henderson and win a championship, and then we'll give you credit. I don't need no credit from y'all, no credit from Barkley, no credit from Shaq. Y'all don't ever have to watch me play ever again. Don't talk about me if you don't rock with me. I'm not gonna stop doing what I do. Kendrick Perkins is back with us. Perk, I'm gonna start with you here. What do you make of KD's comments?
Man, KD a funny dude, man. KD a funny dude. Like,
your former teammate.
Here's the thing about I mean, let me ask you this, okay? KD is one that is not afraid to go back and forth with people on Twitter. Stephen A., he done went back and forth with you. He done went back and forth with me. Sometimes he actually labeled himself as the God, right? The God. He talk about his levels to this, and but I did. Okay. But I'm just telling you. And so when it comes down to certain situations and him being criticized by former greats like Barkley and Shaq, I don't understand how guys just don't embrace that. Like, I don't understand how guys don't want to come to the point where he's saying, you know what, let me go out there and shoot and prove them wrong. Like, I understand, like, you know, I get the fact that, okay, he's saying I'm not worrying about what they're saying, but the fact of the matter is he do. And he cares because he wouldn't go back and forth with people so much on social media if he didn't. Here's the thing about KD. When he left to go to Golden State, and then he won a couple championships there, and he left Golden State when he could have continued to stay there and win more championships, and chose to go to Brooklyn and team up with Kyrie Irving because he knew he wanted to go win a ring on his own outside of Steph Curry, and then that failed. Then all of a sudden he just forced his way out of Brooklyn and got to Phoenix. Like, KD, no one is feeling sorry for you, my brother. Like, we just want to see it. You're one of the best players, if not the best player in the world. You're going down there with Devin Booker and CP3, a culture that has already been established. Monty Williams is a hell of a coach. You got to get it done, period. You got to get it done. We don't want to hear about, because we go watch you. I'm going to watch you. We go watch to see what the hell you do. Are you going to deliver in great fashion? Are you going to shut us up? Are you going to be the Kevin Durant we know to be, and let's go out there and perform and play at a high level? That's what we want to see. I don't want to hear like this sensitive-ass comment when he come back at saying like, I don't care, I don't need credit from no one. Man, that's part of being great. That's part of your legacy. It's getting people to respect your legacy and give you credit that you deserve.
I have a multitude of feelings about this. Let me get the obvious out of the way in two cases. Number one, I think Kevin Durant is one of the greatest players that has ever played in the NBA. And no matter how he accomplished it, nobody could take away from the fact that he's a two-time champion and a two-time NBA Finals MVP. And even on a team with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, he was still the best player on the team. There's no way around it. So this brother is elite. He's spectacular. He's all of that. And I don't worry. I don't concern myself with Kevin Durant's game at all because 98% of the time, he's going to show up. That's who he is. There's 2% of the time we can pick apart and say he did it. But 98% of the time, this brother going to show up, okay? It ain't about Kevin Durant's game. And Kevin Durant is absolutely right. He doesn't need any credit from anybody as it pertains to his game. What Kevin Durant has to accept, and I know he does, no matter how sensitive he may come across. And by the way, I don't mind sensitivity because Kendrick Perkins, you'll appreciate what I'm about to say. As sensitive as he may come across sometimes, I respect the hell out of him for being willing to say what the hell he has to say instead of hiding behind other people to say it for him.
Yep.
And I love that about KD. So, I mean, it doesn't matter when he's clapped back at me from time to time. I took no offense to it because we were arguing over basketball matters. That's fair game. You see what I'm saying? There's no problem with that. And he's the one that's playing. I'm not. So he has a right to defend himself in his positions, whether that's against Shaq, Barkley, or anybody else. Here's where he gets himself in trouble. The same Kevin Durant that don't care about Barkley or Shaq is the same Kevin Durant that's arguing with trolls on Twitter. Now, that just seems a little bit odd. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like anybody can get his smoke. Anybody could get his time or nobody could get his time, depending on what kind of mood he's in, whereas the vast majority of human beings compartmentalize. If you're talking about the game of basketball, critics that range from Shaq and Barkley to, dare I say, a Stephen A. or a Kendrick Perkins are different from trolls you don't know, and you don't know if they know anything about basketball. And so when you when you put everybody in the same bucket, anytime you don't hear what you don't want to hear, then that's what makes you look weak. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.